All right, Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wahaba Kwadash. I want to say double honor to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone for teaching his word of truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. It is the brother Gabar Yahweh from GMS Hawaii coming to you with another lesson, another live lesson. And this lesson is entitled Slavery Was/is a big business. Okay, and a while back I was able to do a lesson on this on our previous camp page that got taken down, but the spirit just had me just reading certain things about the business of slavery. And what enticed me to do this was I was listening to this guy, this rapper, his name is My Son, and he had mentioned Jake and being enslaved here, and it kind of like a little light went off in my head, and I pulled a couple books that I got out. One called The Great Stain, the other is called The Indian Slave Trade, The Rise of the English Empire in the American South, 1670 to 1717. And anyway, the guy, he had said something, and it just made me think about it, and I just looked it up. And it's basically going into the fact that, slavery, a lot of times when our people, the Negro, Latino, Native American, and even these other nations, when they talk about the slavery that our people suffered here in this country, and when I say our people, I'm including the so-called Native Indians of the Americas, as well as the native indigenous people of the Caribbean islands and in South America. All right, chiefly Brazil. All right, our people, they suffer slavery, and in this society, they always push the enslavement of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, where they show these movies, and it's always a Negro on a plantation. If a Negro actor or actress wins an award, they always winning the awards for the slave movies, man. So it puts it in the minds of the people of the world, and not only the people of the world, but also our people, that slavery was so-called a black experience, and it wasn't. It wasn't just a so-called Negro experience. The so-called Native Indians of America, the tribes of Gad, they suffer slavery too. The tribes of Ephraim, who were called Taino Indians on both the island of Puerto Rico and mainly Hispaniola, they were dragged away in slavery too. Okay, they were enslaved in the Americas. They were enslaved in Europe. And they're still. You got Jake still over there now, both of the Southern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom. But like I said, when we're told about slavery, just like this picture, it illustrates, basically the business of cotton. And who's the one standing around? Edomites. Who's the one doing the work? Israelites, man. Israelites picked that cotton. Israelites made America great, just like Israelites made the ancient Egypt a great kingdom. Which this kingdom, America, it basically what's the word I want to say? It's emulated. America has emulated ancient Egyptian society, along with other societies like Babylon, the Greek, the Roman, but chiefly talking about our experience in Egypt. America is that place too. This is Isaiah chapter 30. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1. It says, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord." Those rebellious children are the sons of Israel. All right, and the daughters too. But when it says children, it's speaking to the men. Saith the Lord Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, that take counsel, but not of me, that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. Just the point to walk to go down into Egypt and have not acts of my mouth, to strengthen themselves in Pharaoh and the strength of Pharaoh and the trust of the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. So America is that shadow of Egypt. Matter of fact, let me look up that word for shadow. All right, because America is that shadow of Egypt. It's not as great as the real Egypt, but it's in the shadow of it. It's in the liking of it. You know, it's in the resemblance of it. So the word shadow is a shade, symbolic of transitory of life as protection, shade, defense, shadow, defense. All right. So scarce shadow of my body remains, right? And that's what America is. It's like the remains of ancient Egypt, amongst um, many other kingdoms, but like Sodom. But when you read Revelation chapter 11, verse 8, Revelation 11 and 8, it says this. It says, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So America is spiritually Sodom. You know that sodomy happens, wickedness, evil on that level happens at a high degree and a low degree here in America. And it's also the spiritually Egypt, because not only does it reverence the ancient idols of that nation, but they also have enslaved the children of Israel to become great, to become great. All right. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 68. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And no man shall buy you. Okay, meaning no man shall redeem you, man. Let's look at that word for buy. That word for buy there is quanah, and it says to acquire, to possess, purchase. Oh, here it is right here. Of God originating, creating, redeeming his people. So nobody, no man on this side was going to free us or redeem us. That's why Yahweh Shai is the redeemer. He's going to redeem us out of the land of the north. All right. And you didn't have to get on in ancient Egypt in a map. If you get a map of ancient Egypt, you don't need no boats to go to Egypt. This is Israel right here. This is ancient Egypt. You can walk to Israel. And I think it's like an 11-day journey on foot from Egypt into Israel, man. So we didn't go to ship. We didn't go from Israel to ancient Egypt on ships. So what Egypt did we go on ships? America. America is that Egypt which we went on ships, and America was that place which no man here physically has redeemed us from this captivity that we're in. Again, that's why Yahweh Shai, the Son of the living power, Yahweh, is going to redeem us through salvation. Now, when you look at how slavery affected the world economy, it wasn't even just America's economy, because they got these Edomites, they got rich over here, but their economies in other places got just as rich, but if not richer, especially like the English economy, man. And so again, when you look at when people, including Israelites, look at our servitude here in America, you act like it was just a blip in the road, like it was just something that happened to a people, or people were conquered and their land was confiscated from them, taken from them, all right, and they were taken away from their land and they were all enslaved, and that happened, so just get over it. But how could you get over something like this when you understand that slavery, again, was a big business? And so it says how slavery became America's first big business. And slavery is still a big business here in America today by way of the 13th Amendment. It says how slavery became America's first big business. Historian and author Edward G. Baptist explains how slavery helped the U.S. go from a colonial economy to the second biggest industrial power in the world. You see, of many myths told about American slavery, one of the biggest is that it was an archaic practice that only enriched a small number of men. The argument has often been used to diminish the scale of slavery. Right, that's what they do. They try to act like it was something that happened in the South, which I got information in this couple of books that I had mentioned is going to show you it wasn't just the South that was benefiting off of slave labor here in America, because the North did it just as well. Okay, the North did it just as well. So it says the argument is often been used to diminish the scale of slavery, reducing it to a crime committed by a few Southern planters, one that did not touch the rest of the United States. Slavery, the argument goes, was an inefficient system, and the labor of the enslaved was considered less productive than that of the free worker being paid a wage, which that's a total freaking lie. These people made money hand over fist during the time of our enslavement. Okay, wealthy people that came from Europe, England, other countries, they got wealthier. They were seeing 1,000% turnovers on their profit, probably more than that. Because you think about it, they had free labor. They didn't have to pay a wage to. They could work them as long as they wanted to, and there was no labor laws, man. Okay, all they had to do was get the equipment, the boats, the equipment that went along with it, and get loans for slaves, man. If you can get as many slaves as you can, and get them over to the Americas, and they give you some money to set up a plantation by way of loans, and you was getting money. So it says, let me keep reading. It says, now would you rather a free servant or somebody you got to pay wages to? I don't think so. You don't want to pay no wages to somebody you don't have to. It says the use of enslaved labor has been presented as pre-modern, a practice that had no ties to the capitalism that allowed America to become and remain a leading global economy. But as with so many stories about slavery, this is untrue. Slavery, particularly the cotton slavery that existed from the end of the 18th century to the beginning of the Civil War, was in the 18th century to 1700s, was a thoroughly modern business, one that was continuously changing to maximize profit, to grow the cotton that would clothe the world and fuel global industrialization. Thousands of young enslaved men and women, the children of stolen ancestors, because our ancestors were Israelites. These are Israelites in these fields, man. Legally treated as property. That's what we were. We were property, and we're still property in this man's hands. Were transported from Maryland and Virginia, hundreds of miles south, and forcibly retrained to become America's most efficient laborers. As they were pushed into the expanding territories of Mississippi and Louisiana, sold and bid on. Did not we just read Deuteronomy 28? Thou shalt see no the land. Says by the way wherever I speak unto thee. Matter of fact, Deuteronomy 28:68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way wherever I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. Who are our enemies? These Edomites, man. These Edomites were the enemy. They still an enemy. All right. So it says to be sold and bid on. And the scripture says, ye have cast lots for my people. Joel, what is it? Joel chapter 3. It says, I will also, Joel 3 and 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of, it says Jehoshaphat, but it's really Yahweh Shaphat, which is Yahweh's judgment, and will plead with them there for my people and my heritage. And he says, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations of the land, and they have cast lots for my people, and had given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. When you look up that word for cast lots, the Hebrew word there is yadad, and it says to throw lots, to cast lots, a friend, hand, i.e., throw lots, or to cast a lot. Basically, whoever got the highest number, you win this property. The same thing, which I'm reading right here. They sold and they bid on at an auction, and we settled onto forced labor camps. And that's what they're trying to start again with by way of these concentration camps during time of Jacob's trouble. When it heightens up, they're going to be dragging people in these concentration camps, which are going to be forced labor camps for the war, for the main war that's coming, man. And they're going to ship you. The same thing. The forced labor camps, man. They were given, and they make a big deal about the J-Brews going to a so-called labor camp, man. What about the camp we went to? We still here. They were given a task to plant and pick thousands of pounds of cotton. The bodies of these slaves served as America's largest financial asset. And we're still America's largest financial asset. Not only us, but these other nations here too. These other nations, they come in here, these other Edomites, they're born here. Guess what? They're a commodity too, and they don't even know it. See, these super elite, they put everybody in slavery, man. It's just that we had to suffer the worst of the slavery, man. But these other nations, they're in slavery right now too, and they don't even realize it. People coming over here getting naturalized, they don't realize that they're being handed from one slave master to the next, and it's really going from one Edomite hand to the next. And they were forced to maintain America's most exported commodity. In 60 years, from 1801 to 1862, the amount of cotton picked daily by the enslaved person increased 400%. God damn. The profits from cotton propelled the U.S. into a position as one of the leading economies in the world. That's why this lesson is entitled Slavery Was a Big Business, man. And you shouldn't, and it's not wise to reduce what happened to us here in this country, what's still happening to us today. And I'm not just talking about the so-called black man, I'm talking about the so-called Latino, Native American, Seminole Indian, the Israelites that the Bible speaks of, man. We are still in slavery today. We still are. We're not the manufacturing power or giant that we once used to be. Now that's China's job now. But we're still a commodity here, man. And the slavery that we suffered, and to reduce our captivity here in this country to just 400 years of slavery. That's hey, niggas been saying 400 years of slavery since Malcolm X, man. You know, but the fact of the matter is that to reduce what has happened to us, just as that was just a issue in time, it's something in the past, we don't need to talk about it, don't bring it up in books. To reduce it to nothing, hey man, you basically reducing America, because this place got rich and still getting rich off the backs of us, man, by way of their prison system. All you got to do is look up the 13th Amendment, and it didn't outlaw that. And guess what happened? The 13th Amendment, and then I'm gonna show you a list of prison industries, man. Let me see a list of prison industries. 6 companies and industries making profit off incarceration. Let's go to that. And also want to get this too. Hold on. Let me get this right here. Slovakia. So it says six. It says 6. Here are 6 companies that get rich off of prisoners. It says there are currently 2.4 million people in American prisons, which that's chattel slavery. These prisons are nothing but chattel slavery, and I'm gonna prove it through this information. In American prisons, the number has grown by 500%, and the majority of them people that's locked up are the tribes, man. In the past, mainly men and women, in 500% in the past 30 years. While the United States has only 5% of the world's population, it holds 25% of the world total prisoners. In 2012, 1 in every 108 adults was in prison or in jail, and 1 in 28 children in the U.S. had a parent behind bars. Why do we have so many people in prison? Money is a huge reason we have so many prisoners. Several corporations make huge profits off of prisons. Its cost on an average of $23,886 annually to house a state prisoner for a year. To save money, cash-strapped states, aka us, the taxpayers, pay companies to deal with these prisoners. Companies make money by running prisons as cheaply as possible, nothing more than chattel slavery, and squeezing the prisoners and their families for money for basic necessities. And they gonna do that on a wide scale, man, with that chip. All that's gonna play a role, man. As a result, private prisons are a $70 billion industry. Even crazier, 65% of the private prisons contracts require an occupancy guarantee. That means states must have a certain amount of prisoners, typically between 80 and 90% of occupancy, or pay companies for empty beds. Talk about bad incentive. A state throws money away if it does not have enough prisoners. Brave New Film, Justice and Release. It says 6 companies and industries making a profit off of incarceration. Global Tel Link. It says Global Tel Link provides phone service to about 57% of state prisoners. Their rates are exorbitant. They charge up to $17 for a 15-minute phone call, although the FCC recently voted to limit the rates to 25 cents per call for interstate calls. It says Corazon makes $1.4 billion a year providing health care in over 530 correctional facilities, which is, come on, man. The Bell industry, the law enforcement asset forfeiture, Corrections Corporations of America, and the GEO Group for private prisoners, man. So this is nothing but slavery all over again. And it's still a big business. And in the 13th Amendment, it says this: Constitution of the United States, the 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment. So slavery and involuntary servitude has an exception in this country. If you punish for a crime, that's why you see Jakes are the #1 leaders in getting convicted for crimes in this country. And when I say Jakes, I'm talking about you Black, Hispanics, Native Americans. It's still a big business. Wherewith the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So if you convicted of a crime, guess where you're going? You're going into slavery, man. Chattel slavery. And that's why they move you from one prison to the next. Nobody, your family don't know where you at. You fuck around, you get a case in Pennsylvania, and you mess around and be in Colorado somewhere, man. Or you mess around and be in Arizona somewhere, or California, you know, for something that you did in another state, man, because it's still a big business. You understand what I'm saying? And then the kingdom of heaven, hey, guess what's going to happen? Slavery is going to be a big business. And we're not just going to enslave one nation of people through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai. We're going to enslave the world, man. If you're not an Israelite, you're going into slavery. This is Jeremiah 30, verse 16. It says, therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. That's slavery. And they shall spoil thee that spoil, and they shall spoil thee. I'm sorry, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for prey. In these nations, all our enemies, a list of our enemies, you can go to Psalms chapter 83. Psalms 83, it give you a list of our enemies, man. You skip down, it says the tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites. The tabernacles of Edom is the so-called white man. The Ishmaelites, the so-called Arabs, the Moabites, the so-called Chinese, Hagarenes, Gabal, Ammon, the so-called well, I know Gabal and the Hagarenes, I think they're Arabs too. The Ammonites, so-called Japanese, Amalek, you know, the Jebrews, the Philistines, these Hamites, and the inhabitants of Tyre. So all these nations, not just, these are just some of our main enemies, okay? Because we got other enemies too. The other nations are our enemies too. The ones that's not named here, they're still our enemies too. But you Edomites, you're going to get the worst of the slavery. Just like slavery was a big business here in America, slavery is going to be a huge business in the kingdom. And it's not just going to be from one country to the next. See, the Most High kept you Edomites on this planet. We're going to other planets. We're going to other planets, man. And you Edomites, you going too. You want to make movies about Star Wars and Star Trek to boldly go where no man has gone before. Guess what? In the kingdom of heaven, you going on a transgalactic slave trade, man. You ain't gonna see the earth for a very long time, man. You Edomites, you gonna build this kingdom up here on this earth, which is all this is Yahweh Shai's kingdom. But I'm saying that the main place is gonna be, the headquarters is gonna be the earth. And what you think gonna happen? You know what I'm saying? We're gonna breed you just like you bred us. And y'all gonna, you countries, you nations, you're gonna make us rich. And then on top of that, on top of y'all going into slavery, guess what else is gonna happen? You Edomites and the rest of you heathen nations, man, you gonna well, not you Edomites, because you're gonna be done away with, but the rest of you nations, you're gonna be an eternal workforce for the children of Israel, man. Our people never gonna work again, ever, never, ever. And dare you to call us lazy, man. Dare you to call us lazy. I was looking for something, I just lost my train of thought. But Revelation chapter 13, verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leaveth in the captivity shall go into captivity. So you nations, you Edomites, starting with you Edomites, you led us into captivity, you're going to go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. So y'all killed us with the sword, and you're going to be killed with the sword. You know, this is real quick out of this book. Where's it at? No, it's not it. Salakia, brothers. This book that I got right here, actually, matter of fact, this book, The Great Stain. This book right here, The Great Stain. Yep, on page, this is page, on page 47 of this book, The Great Stain, okay? It says this: the islands of Hispaniola, which the islands of Hispaniola, let me look at, I think that's the Dominican Republic. Hold on. Yep, the island of Hispaniola, yep, is the Dominican Republic today in Haiti, all right? So it's at the time when the Spaniards came, you had a bunch of Taino Indians living there, which those are Simeonites. And you also had that were brought over there and put in slavery with Levites, mainly Levites, man. But you had Judites over there too, amongst all of them. But anyway, it says the island of Hispaniola, okay, where the island of Hispaniola was where the Spaniards first landed, and where they carried out their first ravages against the native people. destroying and devastating as they went, seizing and abusing the women and children, devouring their food and forcing many to flee to the mountains. It's Deuteronomy 28 and 50. Deuteronomy 28 and 50. It says this, a nation, a matter of fact, I'll start at 49. The Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle. Now, this happened during the time of 70 AD, but when these Edomites came back into power, they did the same thing, and then they did it on a global scale. They did it to the northern kingdom. All right. It says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, and from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or the flocks, or thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. Again, back in this book, The Great Stain, in this book right here, it says, all right, it says, devouring their food and forcing many to flee to the mountains. The Indians then began to resist, but their weapons were almost useless. And the Christians, because remember, it was Christians that did this. All right. That same vibration that what's this guy name? Vocab Malone. That same vibration that Vocab Malone is trying to push, that Christian faith. Well, these are the same people that destroyed our people, man. Their Christianity or their form of understanding of the Bible was a lie, man. Okay, and in the kingdom of heaven, we're gonna do it righteously. We're gonna have the rights. We're gonna give you the truth of the Bible, and we're gonna enslave you, man. And you're gonna be forced to follow the laws, statutes, commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, man. See, Esau, he did it the wicked way. He says, but their weapons were almost useless, and the Christians, with their horses and swords and pikes, began to carry out massacres and strange cruelties. It says, when they attacked towns, they spared neither the children nor the aged. And I just read that in Deuteronomy 28 and 50. Okay, they said they wasn't going to show favor to the old, nor they shall not regard the old, nor show favor to the young. It says it right here. When they attacked towns, they spared neither the children nor the aged, nor the pregnant woman, nor a woman in a childbed, not only stabbing them, but cutting them to pieces as if they were sheep in a slaughter. When you read 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 10, it says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. This is talking about America. This is not talking about ancient Egypt. This is a prophecy talking about America, and our people still being led to the flock as a slaughter, being led as a flock to the slaughter here in America, man. You got these different groups, you got these different so-called leaders, and they're leading our people to destruction, man. Anyway, it says cut them to pieces, as if they were sheep in a slaughterhouse. You see, they laid bets to who with one stroke of a sword could split a man in two or cut off his head. This is what they were doing, man. Hey, these Edomites were ruthless, man. And this is all the anger of the Lord, man. And he poured this out on all 12 tribes, man. The so-called Negroes all the way down to the so-called Mexicans, man. We got all of us, but you know, the head tribe got it the worst, man. It says, that's the tribe of Judah. It says they laid bets as to who, with one stroke of the sword, could split a man in two or cut off his head. Other victims were wrapped in straw, then burned alive. Still others had their hands cut off, then tied around their necks, and were told to carry this message to those who had fled to the mountains. And because all those who could do so fled to the mountains, the Spanish captains pursued them with fierce dogs, specially trained to, to follow and attack the Indians, tearing them to pieces and devouring their flesh. That happened in the northern kingdom and it happened to the southern kingdom. This is this is Jeremiah 15:2. It says, and it shall come to pass, if they say unto whither shall we go, then thou shalt tell them, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, such as are for death to death, and such as are for sword to sword, and such as are for famine to famine, and such as are for captivity to captivity. And I will appoint over them 4 kinds, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the sword to slay, which we read about that, the dogs to tear, which we read about that, and the fowls of heaven and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy. You see? So it says, dogs specifically trained to follow and attack Indians, tearing them to pieces and devouring their flesh. And when the wars of killing came to an end, survivors were distributed amongst the Christians to be slaves. To be slaves, man. So the Northern Kingdom, they suffered it too. Again, this was a big business. It was a worldwide business. And it literally stretched around the whole earth, man. So all you jakes that think that, you know, the slavery was a so-called black thing, hey, you got life messed up, man. You err not knowing. All right. It says distributed among Christians to be slaves. The pretext for this repartimento was that it would facilitate the instruction of the Indians in the Christian faith, as if those cruel, greedy, and vicious Christians could be caretakers of souls. Just like they, exactly. That's like vocab Malone. You trying to get Jake to follow, or you trying to get men, or you trying to defame the truth by bringing up these bull crap about your so-called philosophy, your Calvinism and Christianity. But hey, what do you have to say about this? What do you have to say about these cruel Christians? Okay, these vicious Christians, and how they can be caretakers of souls, man. Because the same Christianity that our people follow today, whether that be Catholicism, Methodist, Baptist, whatever, Protestant, all of that was the same Christianity that these devils use to enslave and destroy the true children of the Most High. All right. You see, but vocab Malone, you don't talk about this. Nobody talks about this. You don't talk about how your Christianity was used as part of a big business scheme, okay, to both make our people docile and to enslave them. It says in when okay, I read that, and it says and indeed all the care they took was to send the men to the mines to dig for gold, which is unbearably hard labor, and the women to the fields to hoe and till the land, which is work suitable only for strong men. Nor did either the men or the women get enough to eat, and so the milk in the breasts of the mothers who were nursing dried up. This is before they brought Judah over there. This is before they brought Levi over there. They had Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, all of them, and jacked up, man. Nursing dried up, and their infants soon died. And since the men and women were kept apart, there could be no marital relations. And that's how prison is. When you go you look up what prison is, the women and the men, they're kept apart, and there's no sexual relations between the men and the women. And what does that breed? They're breeding homosexuality, wickedness, and evil, lesbianism, all manners of transgenderism. All that shit goes on behind those walls, man. You know, and they do that so we won't procreate in numbers in prison systems, man. That's right. Like the brother said, the brother Vessel It says, damn, no mercy. That's right. That's why the scripture says this in James 2 and 13. James chapter 2, verse 13. It is good to know this information that we bringing out because, you know, the scripture says, oppression make a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart, man. You got to know that you're being oppressed, man. And these people are getting rich hand over fist, man. It says, this is James 2 and 13. For he shall have judgment without mercy that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. That's right. So you Edomites, you didn't show us no mercy. We ain't going to show you no mercy, man. Them other nations are going to be better off than you, but you're going to catch the full force of the slavery that's coming to you, Edomites, man. You Edomites, you ain't never going to escape that kind of destruction, man. Ever. You ain't nowhere for you to run. Nowhere to run to, baby. Nowhere to hide. So you're going to have nowhere to run to. You're going to have nowhere to hide. Everywhere you turn is going to be hardcore slavery for you. It says, it says, since the men and the women were kept apart, there could be no marital relations. And men died in the mines, and women died on the ranches from the same cause, exhaustion, hunger, and thus was depopulated that island, which had once been densely populated. So that was Hispaniola, man. That was Hispaniola, man. You see? It says, so with the Taino population reduced, Hispaniola alone from perhaps 500,000 to a few thousand, and the Caribs too fierce and savage to be subdued, who was to dig the gold plant? Who was to dig the gold, plant the harvest and the crops, or do the work around the haciendas? Certainly not the conquistadors who scorned to labor. You see, they were kings, man. These Edomites, they ain't worked in forever, man. they got the same mentality, man. They give all the hard labor and jobs to our people, man. Little to no pay. Because these Edomites, they're not going to do it. You see? Peasants and farmers from Spain were too few in number and too ambitious to become encomiendados, okay, which basically they wanted to become slave masters themselves. It says Jews, Muslims, Protestants, and other heretics were not allowed. That left only one answer. Among those in favor of importing slaves from Africa was Las Casas. This is De Las Casas himself. Like most everyone else of that period, he was not opposed to slavery as such, just to what were considered its abuses. For example, enslaving someone in a war that had not officially been declared just. And in fact, it was precisely this requirement that later made him realize what a mistake he had made. For on the reading of Chief Chronicler of Azurara's account of Henry the Navigator and the doings of the Portuguese in Africa, it dawned him that wars in which the Africans had been made prisoners were not in fact just. They weren't, because they were grabbing up Jakes. You had Jake warring against each other, Hamites warring against Jakes, you know, and they were getting these wars because they were making money. Again, slavery was a big business, man. Our enslavement was a huge business. Judah Akia, Jeremiah 49:12, for thus saith the Lord, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken, and art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished. Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. So you Edomites, you did this to us. So you're not going to go unpunished, because it wasn't meant for us to be servants, handmaids, slaves to you heathen nations, man. It's meant the other way around. You Edomites and the rest of you heathen, you were set up to be slaves, handmaids, and servants to us, man. But we drunk of that. You think you're not going to drink of that? You think we're not going to make a big business out of your enslavement, man? And we're going to do it in righteousness, so we're going to have access to all the world resources, man. You know? And for 1,000 years, none of you nations are going to partake in the goodness of those things, man. America's first big business, not the railroads, but slavery. You see, these are just different. I'm not going to read through this article. It says it's a lot. It says right here, for too long, many historians saw no problem in the opposition between capitalism and slavery. They depicted the history of American capitalism without slavery, and slavery as quintessentially non-capitalist, which it was capitalist, man. All kinds of people were jumping in this business. More than half of the nation's export in the first 6 decades of the 19th century consisted of raw cotton, almost all of it grown by slaves. Without access to the resources of New York and London, the expansion of the slave agriculture in the American South would have been all but impossible, man. So you had New York, which is the northern state. You had London. They were all financing all of this stuff, man. You got to know that this thing, it's bigger than just 12 years a slave, man. Shit is bigger than roots. You know? How slavery became America's first big business. You see? It said protests and activism have put a spotlight on racism in the United States, and historical perspective can help us understand how things got to be the way they are. And it can help us inform our visions of social change. Anyway, the business of slavery says slavery created enormous profits, not only for Southern planters and slave traders, but also for Northern cotton mill owners and investors. Nearly 1 million enslaved Africans, when it wasn't enslaved Africans, was enslaved Israelites, defined as property, were wrenched from their upper South families. Some brought their freedom, more fought back by running away and even taking their own lives, man. See, slaves were often sold off the plantation for later auction. And the scene depicted in the American Enterprise exhibition set in Upper South parents had no warning when traders came for their sons. You can learn more about this. Hey, guess what? This is in Deuteronomy 28, man. It says, this is Deuteronomy 28 and 32. It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. So they were just trading Jake like nothing. They didn't reverence you. They didn't care about you. You see? This man, he just did what he wanted to do, man. And all these Edomites, from the French to the Spanish. Oh, where I had that picture right here. All these Edomites, from the French to the Spanish to the British, the Americans, they didn't give a damn about you, man. They didn't care. Again, why? Because it's big business. That's how this man still operates to this day, man. He don't care about the lives that he kills and destroys. To him, it's just all business, man. Okay? It's all business, man. It says back in his book, The Great Stain. Back in his book, The Great Stain, it says, in fact, it says, Navigator, and dawned on that. Okay, it says, the Portuguese in Africa, it dawned on him that the wars in which the Africans had been made prisoners were not in fact just. Apart from some of the Moors taken in the early days, slaves were not Muslim heretics, and so did not qualify for being enslaved. For his mistake, Lacasse judged himself guilty through ignorance. Many others have also blamed Lacasse, but the suggestion of one man hardly likely to have been given a rise to such a vast trade was basically, it wasn't just his fault. And vast certainly what it was. Over the centuries, well over 10 million Israelites were brought to the Americas, the vast majority going to the sugar coffee plantations in the West Indies and Brazil, only about 400,000 coming to what are now the United States. It was an extremely lucrative business. It was an extremely lucrative business. And the Spanish and Portuguese authorities at first tried to maintain a monopoly. And that's why the Lord said the ships of Tarshish is going to go first. He Edomites over there, man, in Portugal, you going in slavery straight up first. But they lacked the means to enforce it, or could not, or nor could their slaves meet the ever-increasing demand. Overseas-going nations were not slow to take notice and join in. The first of these were the English, led by the buccaneer Sir John Hawkins. They burst in upon the African slave trade in their usual vigorous and self-righteous manner, and drawn swords in one hand, a Bible in the other. Right, and that Bible, it wasn't the truth. It wasn't a full Bible, man. They were just using scriptures to back up their points of slavery, man, of taking Jake down. In the other, they added incentive to their intrusion was the bitter rivalry between Protestant England and Catholic Spain. When translated into English, the Bruvusma Relation bore the title Popery truly displayed in the bloody colors. According to the chronicler Richard Hacklot, the first voyage of the right worshipful and valiant knight Sir John Hawkins made to the West Indies took place in 1562. After the lining of several wealthy investors, adventurers as they were called, he outfitted 3 ships. And that's right, man, because these investors, man, they wanted, it was part of their business. These families, these super elite families, they're still rich today because of what their forefathers did in the past. You see? In this book right here, in this book right here, okay, the Indian slave trade from 1670 to 1717, it says this: Carolina shared, this is the introduction, it says Carolina shared no common purpose but to accumulate riches. Unlike Puritan New England, they displayed little interest in building community. Carolinians had neither pattern settlements nor unifying religious visions, whereas Puritans' elite created a highly repressive society to keep watch on a personal behavior of personal behavior. Carolina's elite brooked no interference with individual activities in pursuit of wealth. No other mainland English colony endured such a long period dominated by an incorrigible and politically corrupt elite. For 2 generations, few men, wealth of power could be found who would obey laws, whether royal, proprietary, or local. So this man, he just disobedient from the jump that prohibited their money-making schemes. Thomas Jefferson once wrote that slavery turned the children of slaveholders into petty tyrants. But in the South Carolina, the culture of self-aggrandizement preceded and then was reinforced by slaveholding. From the first settlement, South Carolina elites ruthlessly pursued the exploitation of fellow humans in ways that differ from other mainland colonies. They created a narcissistic culture that reacted passionately and violently to attempt to limit their individual sovereignty over their perceived social inferiors, which they still act that same way today. Edomites, they're trying to take away our liberties. Like the brother said, the big payback is coming. That's right. Says I'll just get to the point. Says what it says about Indian slaves. Yep, it says right here, Native Americans, it says, and the Native Americans usually had superior military power owing to their skills and knowledge of the terrain. The Europeans were forced into dependence on Indian allies to defend their colonies and to conduct military campaigns. The ability to create these alliances alleviated the Europeans' tenuous position, but did not reduce their dependency. Indians secured the colonies against external and internal foes, while providing the economic wherewithal for each colony's survival. Indians fed the colonists, worked for them, and exchanged valuable commodities that the Europeans sold to other parts of the world to gain the capital needed to construct plantations. At any time, native peoples could have destroyed the plantations and entire colonies. Neither Louisiana nor Florida nor Carolina could have resisted the powerful Indian confederacies. These confederacies formed in the 7th century grew and increased in power in the early 18th century. They chose not to conquer the Europeans because they perceived that they gained less by conquest and by trade or by raid. Southern Indians were not opposed to conquest of principle, for some did annihilate their enemies, but warfare conducted for specific cultural and geopolitical purposes, and the removal of the European colonies did not meet those ends. In warfare, warriors hoped to prove valor, obtain captives and booty, and achieve vengeance against enemies. It says the goal of each Indian group included all those factors, plus needed to maintain alliances and security. Warfare, diplomacy, or pivotal welfare of the native communities in the European colonies. It says, but English South Carolina eventually proposed through, though it took a long time for the staple crop of production to supersede the Indians' trade, included the trade in Indian slaves in economic importance. You see, in these two different books where it showed you that Jakes were put into slaves, man. I mean, Indians, so-called Indians, were put into slavery, man. You see? It's crazy, man. This is and that's why you Edomites, the Lord come back, and you're gonna be destroyed, man. Because we're still in your hands, man. This is Exodus 21:16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. You see? And we're still in your Edomites' hands, man. To this day, all 12 tribes. And you stole us, man. You stole America. You stole us. All right? And you're going to be dealt with, man. By Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man. All right? Like the brother said, the big payback, man. Nahum 3:1. Woe to the bloody city is full of lies and robbery, and the prey departeth not. So America is that bloody city. It is full of lies and robbery. Who is the prey that departeth not? The Israelites, man. We're the prey that departeth not, man. Jeremiah chapter Jeremiah Salaki. Is it 55 and 30? 50 and 33. Jeremiah 50 and 33. It says, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Hey, the Wadi Al-Bashim Shai, man. Not even spirit just had me come to this. But you see, we departed not. We're still here, man. We're still in captivity, man. It says some Native Americans were captured and sold by others into slavery to Europeans, while others were captured and sold by Europeans themselves. In the late 18th and 19th century, a small number of tribes adopted the practice of holding slaves as chattel property, holding increased numbers of African American slaves, man. You see? You see? So, I just wanted to bring this out and just show the concept of how big of a business our slavery in America was, man. And it still is to this very day. It still is to this. Hold on, let me see this. I didn't look this up. I had put a list of a list of major profit for prisoners companies, man. Let me see. Hopefully, yep, right here. It says facilities, use for profit, privatized correctional services, January 2017, not a full listing. So you got Corvette Corrections Corp, the GEO Group, facility operations, medical health, Okay, pharmaceutical services, transportation services, commissary services, food service, Aramark, which they hire people in regular civilian life. Trinity, Able Food Services. You see? That's how they get down, man. So I just, again, it's still a big business, but it's all right because when we get you devils in slavery, man, it's going to be a big business all over again, man. But this time it's going to be on y'all and you other nations, man. You other nations going to suffer this too. You're going to suffer the hardcore transgalactic slavery too, man. It's just that you Edomites, you're going to get double. And you're going to read about that in Revelation, man. Matter of fact, I'll end it off with that. I'll end it off with this. Because you're going to receive double for what you did to us, man. Revelation chapter 18. Revelation chapter 18. Verse 18, verse 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High have remembered her iniquities. So while you Edomites try to whitewash everything and try to blot your shameful spewing out, hey, the Most High remember all your iniquities, man. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she had filled, fill to her double, man. So you Edomites, you're going to get a double dose of this, man. Shit, if we had to work, you ain't going to get no sleep, man. Just like you had Jake not getting no sleep from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. But you're not going to get no sleep because they said they used to have to either pick cotton all day, and at nighttime, they had to hang it, man. You see? Or they might be hanging tobacco or something at nighttime. So you Edomites, you ain't going to get no rest, man. The only time you're going to get rest is on the Sabbath, man. So that means you're going to be working 6 days, 24/6, man. 24/6, man. And that's just our heart meditating terror, because really what the Lord got for you is going to be unthinkable, man. Unimaginable, man. And you're super elite know that this happened. This going to happen, man. But you lesser Edomites, you don't know, but you're going, how they say, you're going to have a rude awakening. Isaiah 33:18, thine heart shall meditate terror. Where is the scribe? Where is the receiver? Where is he that counteth the towers, man? So yeah, you Edomites, you got it. You got it coming, man. You got it coming. So I just wanted to, I hope brothers are edified. I know this was about an hour in. Salaki, it was so long. But I really hope that you brothers were edified. I want to give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Yahweh Kakodash. Say double honor to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone, for teaching his word in truth and sincerity, for ruling well. And salutations to our fellow Akim. Keep pushing, keep striving. We almost out of here. Hey, shalom.